Rocco Fashion friends! Today I will be making some early shoes for you all with a little bit of shoe history thrown in. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment if you want to see me make more shoes on this channel. My next planned shoes after these ones are going to be shoes for the Tudor era, and I am really excited to work on them. There are some very exciting styles from the Tudor era. Based on the archaeological evidence, humans seem to have first started wearing shoes about 40,000 years ago. But the earliest shoes that have been found are from about 9,000 BCE. So how do we know humans were wearing shoes this early without actual shoes to look at? This is because wearing shoes actually changes the way that people walk. If you've ever looked at the wearing patterns on your shoes, you can see where the tendency is for you to distribute your weight. Mine is to the outside, and I always get holes there. And the type of shoes that you wear can actually affect the way you distribute your weight as well. In addition, wearing shoes causes changes in our bones and ligaments over time. The earliest dated shoes were discovered in 1938 in Oregon in Fort Rock Cave by archaeologist Luther Cressman. These shoes were made of sagebrush bark. Cressman estimated that the shoes were approximately from 7600 BCE, but in 1951, after the development of radiocarbon dating, they were able to be actually dated to 9000 BCE. In Armenia, the oldest leather shoes were found in a cave labeled Arini 1, dating to between 3653 to 3627 BCE. This site also had a number of other groundbreaking discoveries, which I will not get into in this video, but are definitely worth reading about on your own. In the case of shoes in the 1st century, in warmer climates, we see a lot of sandals and shoes using leather or other lacing as the main method of enclosing the foot, such as Greek or Roman cultures. Soldiers often wore heavily soled shoes with hobnails to assist with traction and walking over rough terrain, since they often had to travel very long distances. Some shoes were highly decorated in the way that the leather was cut out and designed. It was extremely detailed. In colder areas, shoes became more enclosed and may have been stuffed with grasses or with the fur actually left on the skin and put to the inside of the shoe, kind of like a ye olde Ugg boot. Many simple shoes were made from a single piece of leather, which was just held together with leather straps. That is exactly the type of shoe we will be making today. In terms of my reasons for choosing this style of shoe, it is a very simple design which can be done quickly and with minimal sewing. That's great for when you are making all of the costumes yourself for an entire project. The punching of the holes for the leather strips to go through makes it very easy to create an adjustable shoe, which could easily be worn over a bare foot or then put over a set of something like hose or knit stockings, or with other insulation put inside to create flexibility for wearing it during different weather conditions or seasons. There are a lot of different designs for shoes which are created this way, and with different levels of complexity. I have gone for a simplistic design because this shoe was to be worn by a lower status character who would most likely not be ornately adorned. I have used a design which is pretty easy to find on the internet and seems to be a combination of a shoe found in an Irish bog and then other ancient Roman finds from around England. I couldn't find a single bog example that looked exactly like this design, but it seems to be a simplification of various designs out there and then modern inspiration taken from the current ghillie shoe. There was a similar shoe found in Ireland which was the same shape and had the same lacing style, but doesn't appear to have the tabs cut out. And then I saw ones that were more cut out, which were the Roman excavation finds, and they formed a more sandal style with an open toe. However, shoes which were in some way similar to this style have been found across multiple continents and cultures. Now, let's get on to why these shoes and what they're going to be used for. I chose this because it seemed like a great blend of a style that would have been used in pre-Roman Britain and then some essence of the Roman influence, which is perfect for the setting of this film piece, which is being made for a early first century Britain, where there has already been a significant Roman influence, but not necessarily a full Roman occupation. Cymbeline has always been one of my favorite Shakespearean plays, and I wanted to bring a piece to you all that was from that play and one of my favorite historical heroines. And it will be set in the historical time period in which King Cunobelinus was king of what is now southeast England. While there is no historical evidence that he actually had a daughter, he did have 2 sons. I just love the story of Imogen and her conviction and perseverance. Now, these shoes are not going to be worn by Imogen. They're going to be worn by Pisanio, who is the servant of her husband, a character who would have had a great occasion to travel far with Posthumus to the area of Roman occupation and across England. He is not rich and therefore would not have the highest quality of shoes available. And he may have needed to actually make a new pair for himself while traveling on the road. And it would most likely be a simple pair such as this one. A style such as this would actually wear out very quickly and need replacing on a nearly monthly basis. I started with an outline of the foot to base the design shape around, and then made these little loops which, when threaded with a leather strip, can be pulled together around the foot to enclose it within the shoe. After drawing out the pattern, I used scissors to cut it out. And I was able to do this because the leather I was using was very soft. I have some other leather which is hard and absolutely cannot be cut with scissors and needs to use a leather knife to cut it out. The only sewing on this type of shoe is at the very back near the heel, and it's super quick to do. There's only a few stitches required. And the type of stitching that I used requires 2 needles attached to each end of a single waxed thread so that you can actually pass the thread through the same hole going in opposite directions, and this creates a really tight seal when you pull it. In this type of shoe, I have seen styles with small holes for the leather thread towards the middle and front of the shoe, as I'm doing, but also with larger styles, which ends up with a more sandal-like look. I chose a closed style because of the fact that the characters are currently traveling in England, and a closed shoe is much more suitable to a wet and cool climate. I also have to say that this type of shoe is much quicker to make than the first set of shoes I made, which required a lot of sewing, and it can be made in about half a day. I started with using my small hole punch to make the holes for the threading, and then later I found that while that worked well for the parts that had to be sewn on the back, it was actually more suitable and faster to use scissors to cut a slightly larger hole for the leather strips that were going to hold the shoe together, because it was a bit too wide for the hole punch. And my last step was just to add in another layer of leather that was the shape of the sole of the foot, just to add a little more comfort and thickness to the shoe for walking over hard and rocky terrain. And now for a little showcase of the shoes. If you want to see them in action, stay tuned for my short film, which is a scene from Cymbeline, coming up in just a few weeks. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.